Hi everyone, AJ here with another video vlog for you. This is the video about my nutrition during my second trimester. I'm going to do a separate video about training in my second trimester because that video is going to be pretty interesting. There was a lot of really interesting things that happened and hurdles that I needed to overcome and changes I needed to make. If you haven't seen my videos about training and nutrition in my first trimester, I suggest that you go ahead and have a look at those. You can go to my website, andreajengle.com. What I've been doing for my pregnancy is I've been making a couple of videos and then putting them in a blog with the most important points that you can access all in one click on my website. And that's andreajengle.com. So for those of you that don't know me as or you're just tuning in now, I am a diet coach and personal trainer. I'm somewhat known in the carb backloading and carb night community, so there might be parts of this video where I'm talking about some advanced dieting strategies that I've used in the past that might be over your head. That's okay. I'm going to just talk about them briefly, and then I'm going to get to the information that everybody can use, which is things that you should be focused on about your nutrition and the things that you don't need to worry about when it comes to nutrition during your pregnancy. So I will provide information for everyone in this video. Some of it will be carb night and carb backloading specific, and then if anyone has specific questions, I encourage you to reach out to me on social media because I want to start using Periscope to answer these more specific questions in more detail, and we can get into more of the finicky stuff. So go back and watch my stuff about the first trimester because it was very challenging for me. I understand that a lot of women actually feel that way throughout their whole pregnancy, and I don't know how you guys do it because that pregnancy seems really long as it is and challenging, and I can't imagine feeling that horrible for that long, but luckily for me, I kind of snapped out of it come my second trimester. So I'm almost 26 weeks today, so I'm just about finished my second trimester, so I can give you a pretty good idea of how things changed, because things did change. It wasn't like I got my nutrition dialed in right away. It took a couple of weeks. So part of that process, when I started feeling better in my second trimester and I could train harder again and I wasn't nauseous and I wasn't having massive food aversions or really weird cravings anymore, I was just really eager to get back into some kind of eating routine that resembled what I was doing before, something that I was familiar with, something that I was comfortable with, and that was carb backloading. So right away I jumped to the conclusion that that's what I could do, and I needed that emotionally. I kind of needed that familiarity of how I ate because it was so thrown off in the first trimester. So I started to train harder again and implement carb backloading, and it just was not working for me. Like I said, we could do a separate Periscope video about this in the future. If you guys ask for it, I will do it, but I'm just going to give you a brief summary right now because it's a good lead into what I want to talk about. It was not working for me when I was trying to implement my old way of eating, which is a really important takeaway because I think so many people get stuck in a pattern or something that they're used to or something that they believed in before, that they think that that is the only way to eat or tackle something. And you really have to listen to your body, and my body was telling me, no, this is not working for you right now. I couldn't eat a big bolus of carbs late in the evening without feeling sick and jittery. I couldn't eat those high glycemic carbs after training, whether it be in the evening or not, because it made me actually feel pretty sick, and it would actually send my blood sugar for a big loop, and blood sugar regulation is really, really important when you're pregnant. So those two things alone were the first indicator for me that it wasn't working. And then I started noticing that when I was training a little bit later in the afternoon and I hadn't had carbs throughout the day, it just kind of felt like my performance was suffering a bit, and I wasn't sure if it was just pregnancy itself or, like I said, my nutrition needs had changed. So maybe I did need to incorporate more carbs earlier in the day. So I did some testing and I just started eating carbs before training So like kind of starting at lunchtime, and I started to feel really, really good. And you know, right now I'm still not eating carbs first thing in the morning every single day. Some days I will, some days I won't. My breakfast is still pretty low carb, but then I'm incorporating carbs with every meal after that. And like I said, they're not high glycemic carbs. They're a lot of low glycemic carbs. And I think a lot of low carbers or people on cyclical or targeted ketogenic diets are really used to having high glycemic carbs when they incorporate their carb intake. And I haven't been able to do that and feel really well. So I might treat myself to something every once in a while, like a bowl of ice cream. It has to be a pretty small portion, but really throughout the day, I'm incorporating low glycemic, starchy carbs, a lot of fiber, and that's what's working for me. I wouldn't say that I am on a super high carb diet. I would say the ratio is pretty much the ratio I was using before I was pregnant, but of course I'm in a calorie surplus, so I'm eating more food overall. So so that's kind of the summary of like where I found myself early in the second trimester, and I had to make some changes. And then the questions really started to pour in through Instagram and through Facebook about, you know, I got a lot of questions from women who recently just found out they were pregnant and they were really, really afraid of gaining weight. The questions seem to all be the same. So for the remainder of this video, what I want to focus on is what I think are the most important things that you need to focus on during your second trimester, and the things I really think you just need to let go. So let's talk about calories. First and foremost, calories are always king when it comes to weight gain or weight loss. In your second trimester, there is a need for more calories to support fetal development. And the consensus is it's probably somewhere between 200 to 300 calories more per day. I would say if you're a woman that weight trains and you're still able to weight train hard, it might even be higher than that. This is something that you kind of need to figure out, and this is why I kind of, you know, I've always promoted that kind of knowing where your calorie maintenance is in general is such an important thing for women to know, because I think a lot of women don't really realize how much they can eat or how much they should eat. So I just wanted to throw that in. But the most important thing that keeps on coming up is women keep on messaging me and they're really afraid about maternal weight gain. So in terms of that, there's a couple of things I want to point out here. Your ideal weight gain during pregnancy should really be based off your BMI pre-pregnancy. Now, unless you're like some super jacked bodybuilder, that, you know, those BMI measurements might throw your results off, where, you know, I know a couple women who are just super, super jacked, and when they do their measurements, it says that they're obese, and that's actually not the case. But for most of the population, you're not going to fall into that category. And for this purpose, even though I don't like BMI for other things, I do think that it is a reasonable way to determine what is an appropriate weight gain during your pregnancy. My doctors, my midwives, they all agree with this, and I haven't really seen any other data to show otherwise. That doesn't mean that if you don't gain as much as you're supposed to, or you gain more than you're supposed to, that's something that's gone horribly wrong, or that there's going to be major consequences, you know, like within reason. But it is good to have an idea of what you're supposed to gain, and you need to establish that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you need to do, because what you need to do is you need to look that up, you need to do your BMI test, and then you need to establish this with your medical professional. And I know a lot of women don't want to track their weight during their pregnancy because it's kind of nerve-wracking, but I'm going to tell you this. Aside from them measuring the baby during ultrasounds and measuring your uterus during visits to your, whatever be your midwife, your OB, or your doctor, if you're not really checking where you're at the scale and making sure that you're gaining kind of at the rate that you should be, then you really don't know how to tinker with your nutrition. So if you're not eating enough or if you're eating too much. So, you know, if you're supposed to be gaining a pound a week and you're gaining 2, well, that might be an indication that the way you're eating right now is maybe just a little too much. So you might want to make some adjustments. I think that is important. But like I said, pregnancy weight gain is a very individual thing. It needs to be based off of your pre-pregnancy BMI, and everybody is different. Women are even different during their multiple pregnancies. So the most important thing that you need to do is understand that in your second trimester, you're not eating to diet, you're eating to nourish your body, nourish the baby's growth, and you need to be eating more. So a really important mindset adjustment right off the bat in the second trimester is that you need to be eating enough. And what is enough is something that you need to establish individually with your medical professionals that you're working with during your pregnancy. And I think that's really, really important. And the other thing I want to talk about just briefly is not all pregnancy weight gain is fat gain. In fact, for someone like myself that's supposed to gain somewhere between 30 to 35 pounds in my pregnancy, about only 7 or 8 pounds of that is actually going to be body fat. So you really have to keep that in mind, and there's a lot of good resources. I'm sure your doctors will have them for you, that it breaks down, you know, what percentage of weight gain is attributed to what during pregnancy. It's, you know, some of it's the fetal weight, the fetus weight, some of it's placenta, some of it's just water retention and blood volume. Your breast size plays a role too. So be aware of that, and just, you know, understand that 35 pounds or maybe you gain 70 pounds, it's not going to be all body fat. And I do suggest, you know, I haven't been going on the scale every week, but I go on like once a month just to make sure that I'm kind of in that range that I should be. And I'm also cross-referencing that with what my doctor says, so how the ultrasound measurements are coming in and how my uterus is measuring up. And that's what's really important. That though you have to look at all those things, and if everything is good, your doctor and your midwife are going to tell you everything is good. And if you are not eating enough, they're going to tell you that you're not eating enough. You're going to need to tweak your diet a little bit more. So, I guess the other thing I wanted to point out is that I think a lot of women overlook the fact that, you know, trying to meticulously control your weight gain and possibly under eating, there's no way to say for sure if that's going to have a negative effect on the baby. But I think from most studies that I've read, the negative effect is seen years later in the mother, whether it be osteoporosis or whether it be just right after pregnancy with some weird kind of thyroid issues. I think a lot of women forget that you're nourishing 2 people, and we can't forget about ourselves. And, you know, obviously the baby is the most important thing, and that is the focus. But if you're robbing your body of any nutrients, possibly that's coming from you, and you're going to pay for that in the long term. So that's why, you know, the other most important thing that you really need to focus on is just eating nutrient-dense food as much as possible. So making sure that you're getting your vitamins, your minerals, and I just burped. That's my pregnancy thing, burp sometimes. So I'm not redoing this video over a burp. Sorry. So nutrient-dense foods is really, really important. But what's also important is having a little bit of flexibility in your diet and allowing yourself a treat every once in a while. Because whether you're pregnant or not, I think every person psychologically needs that balance, and you need to be able to go have that treat and not beat yourself up over it. Especially when you're pregnant and you're supposed to be gaining weight. Let's face it. You are going to, we're going to go through this experience, and then after, when our bodies are ready and we want to focus on postpartum weight loss, that's when we're going to start worrying about these little finicky things. So that's, you know, I kind of covered the 2 things that I wanted to talk about early on in this video, is what you should focus on. And I think that is the appropriate amount of calorie intake to support the weight gain that is appropriate for you during pregnancy. And and then nutrient-dense foods. I think those are really, really important, but I also think you need that freedom of having a snack every here and there. You know, snack, as I say, like a treat or a dessert or, you know, or a burger. Maybe your thing is you want to have a burger every now and then. I think there's been this huge swing where so many people are like so detailed and paranoid about their nutrition that they will beat themselves up if they go have a hamburger. And I don't think that's healthy either. So what I want to talk about, and this is more for like my advanced, I don't want to say advanced, but the people that follow me because of the coaching that I do, is the stuff you don't need to worry about. And take it from me, from someone who is like meticulously done like everything you can think of with my diet, everything from ketogenic diets to intermittent fasting, carb backloading, low carb, low fat. I've tried it all. And I'm not going to talk about those experiences right now. But when you're pregnant, it's not really a time for that. All that matters is that you're eating enough food to support the pregnancy and your body's and the fetus's needs. And all that other stuff, like manipulating your nutrient timing, manipulating your meal timing, manipulating your macronutrients. Now that's something I still kind of pay quite a bit of attention to because I weight train pretty hard still during my pregnancy. So I need to make sure I'm getting enough protein, need to make sure I'm getting enough carbs, need to make sure I'm not over consuming fat. So I am paying attention to those things, and I think that they are important, but trying to like micromanage these things when you're in a state where you are growing another human being and supposed to be putting on body weight is just, it's exhausting. And I don't think anyone should really try to do that. So as much as I want you to focus on the things that I pointed out before that are the most important aspects, I want you to let go of these other little meticulous diet tricks that you don't need right now. As far as I'm concerned, they don't apply. And giving yourself the emotional break is going to be a huge benefit when postpartum you're ready to get back to, you know, pre-pregnancy weight, and then you need to start paying attention to those things. You're going to be exhausted, you're going to be run down, and the last thing you need is to feel like you've been dieting throughout your pregnancy. You're going to want to feel refreshed, rejuvenated, and saying, okay, I'm ready now to start tweaking my diet in a way that I know might be more optimal than the way I've been eating currently. So, just to tell you guys, like, some days I have 6 meals a day. Sometimes I have 4. There's been days when I've had 8 small meals a day. There's also been days when I've switched up my weight training and had like a really intense leg day, and kind of, I don't want to overeat before I go to bed because then I have a really horrible sleep. So I might get up in the morning and I'm like, at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm really, really hungry. So guess what? I got up in the middle of the night and I've had a snack. It doesn't need to be an 800 calorie snack. It might only be like 150 calories. Not that I'm actually counting, but I know so much about food and calorie intake just because of what I do for a living, so I can kind of look at something and know what it is. But that's what I've been doing, and my weight gain has been completely appropriate. So I've gained about 11 to 11 and a half pounds. I'm at the end of my second trimester almost. The most important thing, like I said before, is that my uterus is measuring properly and the baby's measuring properly. So at the end of the day, just want to show you guys that like all of these little things, like I've ditched all my meticulous little diet strategies that I've used over the years, and there hasn't been any negative repercussion of that. And in fact, it's all been positive. Positive not only just physically, but emotionally too, because why would I want to worry about this stuff right now? I got a lot on my plate and I don't need to worry about something like my meal timing. If I'm hungry, I will eat. If I was gaining too much weight, then I might make an adjustment. If I was not gaining enough weight, then I would need to make an adjustment. But really it all comes back to those basic things. What is your appropriate weight gain? Is the baby measuring up? And is your uterus measuring up? And I don't know, I've already gone on for 20 minutes, and I said I didn't want to make this a long video, but I kind of went off on a rant because I think it's really, really important, especially with women who are, you know, really concerned about their diet before they get pregnant. You gotta kind of learn to let it go. And I think when you're postpartum and you're ready to start doing things again, you know, in a more meticulous way, that you'll really reap the benefits then. And you know, for the most part, a lot of those little meticulous, like minutia kind of things that people focus on aren't even really necessary anyway. At the end of the day, as long as you're sleeping properly, not super overstressed, and eating the appropriate amount of food based on your goal, you should be able to get your results. So I'm going to wrap up this video now because I think it's gone on too long. I'm going to do another video for you guys about my training, because that was actually way more interesting than my diet during my second trimester. I'll put everything together for you in a blog with some important points to highlight, and maybe some resources in there too, links to the things that I've spoken about. And you can get that on AndreaJangle.com. And that's all for today. See you guys later.